Today we're doing something that I have not done on the channel before, at least not in this way. Today I have the privilege of interviewing a gentleman, a disabled veteran, a former U.S. paratrooper that I recently met at the Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam Air Force Base passenger terminal while we waited to catch an Air Force C-17 to fly Space A to Travis Air Force Base, California. So just by way of introduction, Gene is 66 years of age. He lives full-time in the Philippines, and he flew commercially from Manila to Guam and then flew Space A from Guam the rest of his way to California. Because my new friend Gene was a little reluctant to appear on camera, I'll only be using his first name and a silhouette out of respect for his wishes, but I believe that my viewers will get a lot out of what he has to share today. So Gene, welcome to the channel. Let's jump right in, and I'd ask you if you could tell us a little bit about your military service and what got you interested in space available travel as a disabled veteran.
Sure. I'm a former active duty, now U.S. military veteran. I served in the U.S. Army. During my service, I was involved in multiple operations, just like many servicemen today. Many of the operations were dangerous, risky, required sacrifice. And like many veterans today, one of the most significant sacrifices we make is our health. Many veterans make the ultimate sacrifice and give their life, but those who do sacrifice their health, like myself, tend to have disabilities that are sometimes short-term, but many times long-term. In my case, I have long-term disabilities. My disabilities includes joint injuries to my joints. I suffer from autoimmune diseases that I contracted during my time overseas when I was in the Army. My injuries include mental illness. It includes various other physical and mental. I guess we can conclude by saying that these are disabilities.
Now, Gene, you're Space A eligible as a result of being 100% permanent and totally disabled, correct?
I am. With all my injuries, they total 100%, but not just 100% disabilities. I am permanent and totally disabled.
Well, I would certainly rather that you were whole in body, mind, and spirit, but I am grateful that you're eligible to participate in this great benefit. So what inspired you to start using Space A travel?
Well, the Space A benefit belongs or is given to those veterans that meet a certain criteria, and you know the criteria. You can go over the criteria. But those who do meet this criteria are allowed to, along with retired veterans who are retired, are allowed to fly on U.S. military aircraft to different parts of the world, both internationally and domestically. My first Space A experience was it was It went pretty smooth. Once you abide by the criteria that the military sets up, which includes having the proper documentation, following the proper rules, having the proper identification card. Once all of that checks out, because one of the things that happens is they will check to see if you are uh, eligible to fly based on the documentation. Um, but once you are deemed eligible, then it's pretty smooth after that point. For me, my first trip, I think, was domestically. I went from, I believe, the Southern California area to McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey.
And I'm assuming that you enjoyed that trip.
Well, being a veteran, you become familiar with uh, different ways. I would say the culture, I guess that best describes it, the culture of the military. Um, and then when you leave the military, um, you are no longer uh, involved with the culture. And sometimes those memories tend to fade. Um, when you start flying Space A, it almost gives you an opportunity to, uh, if not relive, uh, have great memories of when you were on active duty. And that's what happened to me on my first Space A flight. I was a paratrooper. I was airborne when I was with the military. So being back in a military aircraft that was operational, and that was a key for me, was operational. That was very significant. I think my first experience was probably a little bit more detailed than most veterans. I can remember during that first trip, there was a training being conducted on the aircraft. Um, it was a medical training. The training consisted of Air Force medics pretending as if they had an injured patient. They had imitation blood, bandages. They were being timed. They were training. All of this training was going on as we were sitting there watching it, and as the flight was occurring.
Now, Gene, you recently traveled from the Philippines to California. Could you walk us through that trip? And you actually came by way of Guam. So if you could walk us through the commercial side of the first leg of that trip, as well as the flight from Guam forward to your destination.
Sure. Well, based on my eligibility, being 100% permanent and totally disabled, that allows me to fly domestically. Does not allow me to fly internationally. It allows me to fly domestically within the 48 states uh, and and all territories, including Guam and Puerto Rico. Also the Virgin Islands, for people, kind of like a little bit more of an experience. Um, but yeah, uh, I had a fantastic experience.
Can you tell us about the specific steps that you took?
So the steps I took, I took a commercial flight from Manila to Guam. Uh, it was relatively low cost. It was maybe $150. I have gotten that flight for as low as $80. So it depends on the time of year that you fly. But this particular time was about $150. I arrived at Guam. Uh, arriving at the Guam airport, international airport, it it's about $50 to $60 to catch a taxi from the Guam International Airport to the Anderson Air Force Base, where the Space A flights and passenger terminal are located. Um, so once I arrived at Anderson Air Force Base, um, I I was able to check in to a flight. Um, the flight that I was interested in was going to Travis via Hickam Air Force Base in Hawaii. The ultimate destination was Travis. Um, the the staff at the counter, they were extremely polite, but the whole experience is enhanced by the fact that you, as a veteran, you were in their place at one time. So as they walk you through the process and as you participate in the process, um, it's really a trip down memory lane. And that's what I liked about it most. I can remember when I was the young service member behind the desk, and that puts me in a position to be a lot more patient with them, um, to feel uh, the positive feelings when I see that they're doing their job competently, and it just makes it's a sort of like a family affair. It gives you a feeling of a family affair, um, when you're there.
How long was your flight from Guam to Hawaii, and what did you fly on?
We flew on a C-17, um, C-17 aircraft, and the flight was about 5 hours. Yeah. Now, just to let you know, one of the uh, greatest experiences in flying on a med flight is, unlike commercial flights where you have to sit in one position in a chair, which is usually a small chair with your knees in your chest. On the Space Safe flight, we actually get to lay down wherever there's an open area. We can sit, lay down. It's really, like I said, it feels like a family affair. It's a much more comfortable flight.
As a 100% disabled veteran, were there any accommodations or challenges that you experienced using Space A?
No, there were no. I mean, the accommodations were there if I needed them. Um, I was traveling with um, veterans who had wheelchairs, and uh, they were those special needs were accommodated by the Air Force. Yeah.
How much planning did you do before this trip, and how flexible do you have to be when traveling Space A compared to commercial?
Well, in this particular trip, I did not do much planning. In trips past, I have planned extensively. As an example, um, you can uh, you can obtain um, apps online that will give you military schedules. They'll give you when planes are leaving. I believe Pop and Smoke is one, and other online apps. Um, and that helps you to plan. That puts you in a position to get to your terminal in enough time that you can get the information that you need that's required in order to make your trip comfortable. I don't have any that I would call my favorite. I would say that having the freedom to travel based on whatever particular purpose, mood, circumstance really contributes towards peace of mind. And I think that's what it's all about, is to try to uh, give the veteran that experience that he can continue to make his journey, um, whether it's a physical journey, a mental journey, to manage their disabilities. And that's what it's really about, is to help the veteran manage those disabilities. Um, Now, I would say there have been times when I've been extremely excited to fly into McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey and hit New York City. New York City is, with Times Square, all the lights, and that's where my energy level was at that particular time. There's been times when I have flown into North Carolina, or actually South Carolina, and taking a bus from Carolina to North Carolina, that afforded me an opportunity to spend time with a relative who was sick, and was ending their last days. There's been times when um, I've flown from my favorite route is flying from Travis to Hickam in here in Hawaii, and then from Hickam to Guam, and then taking a commercial flight from Guam to wherever I may go, whether it's the Philippines, Thailand, or wherever I want to go. Um, so that I would say that would be my favorite route, because flying commercial, you can get stuck on an airplane for 20, sometimes 30 hours straight, just in the air, flying from the United States to a place like the Philippines. But when you fly Space A, you have the opportunity to break up that flight. So you can fly, as an example, what I like to do is I'll fly from, uh, let's say, New Jersey to Travis, spend a couple of days in Northern California. I may fly from Northern California down to March Air Force Base in Southern California. Then I may fly from March to Guam, or I could fly from Travis to Hickam, spend a couple of days in Hawaii. I love Guam. Guam is a great place for peace of mind. Um, and so it just really depends on what you're aiming to do and what your purpose is.
Now, you've mentioned community and camaraderie. Have you met a lot of other veterans or active duty families along the way? And how has sharing that experience impacted you?
Every trip, I meet someone, whether it's other veterans who you hear their stories. You hear their stories about their active duty military careers. You hear their stories about their journey through their disabilities. You hear their journey. I mean, you hear their stories about their journeys through retirement. Um, you'll meet families on the trip here. I met a Masonic brother, and I got to meet his Masonic, meaning we're brothers in the Masonry, in the Association of Masonry. I got to meet his daughters. He was taking his daughters on their first space A flight. And so that's something that veterans should also remember is you don't always have to travel alone. If you have a spouse or if you have dependents, they too can qualify to travel on Space A for free.
How do you prepare for a stateside trip versus an overseas trip? Are there any differences?
So during the stateside trip, one of the things you really want to pay attention to is cost. Um, you can fly into a specific area or terminal or a joint base. And if the plane isn't going out, because a lot of times the schedule has to meet the operational needs of the Air Force. They may have a plane that's scheduled to go out, let's say, for example, at 3 p.m., but due to operational needs, they cancel carrying passengers because they have greater operational needs. So, you're stuck there thinking that you're going to get on a plane at 3. You don't get on the plane at 3. So it's very important that you have the right state of mind, that you're flexible. You have to be flexible. And that includes financially. Because you can end up spending more money flying Space A than a commercial if you don't plan it properly. As an example, if you're playing, if you can't get a plane out for the next 3 or 4 days, you have to take into consideration the cost of lodging, hotel or Airbnb, etc. And if that's going to exceed a commercial ticket price, it may be better just to go ahead and fly commercial. So these are things that you have to constantly be aware of and have to juggle when considering flying Space A. Now, international flights, you have to be concerned with those things also. But in addition, you have to make sure um, that you pay attention to international travel requirements such as passports. You still have to have your passport. You still have to make sure that um, if you're flying into a country that has a visa requirement, that you meet those visa requirements. Um, you still have to make sure that you meet the same requirements that you would have to meet on a commercial flight.
So, Gene, what advice would you give to other veterans, especially disabled veterans who are thinking about flying Space A for the first time?
One of the most important advice I can give you is be flexible, and you have to have the right attitude. Um, this is an incredible benefit, but it won't serve you at all if you don't have the right attitude. Attitude is everything. Um, you have to consider the nature of the benefit and consider whether or not that benefit is something that that helps you at the particular time. But you have to have patience and you have to be flexible. And if you don't have patience and if you don't think you can be flexible, this is probably not a benefit that you want to participate in.
Looking back at your experiences, how has Space A travel impacted your life and retirement and your ability to stay connected to the world?
Well, that's the thing. It allows me two main things. Number one, it allows me to get away when I feel I need to get away, when I feel I need to be connected to nature on a beach somewhere far without too much interaction in order to manage whatever issues I need to manage. It allows me to have that freedom without worrying about any severe financial loss. Um, and on the flip side, it also enables me to be close to family. I've had relatives who were sick and or in the process of transitioning, um, and it allowed me to spend time with them and to be with them, and uh, and to find peace in that way also.
Gene, thank you so much for taking the time to share your thoughts and feelings about this great benefit that we have. Hopefully, it'll encourage other veterans who are just kind of familiar with it but not participating. Take a closer look at military Space A travel.
Okay, and thank you for trying to help to get the word out. There are a lot of veterans out there who need to know that it's not as scary as it may sound. Like I said, right attitude, flexibility, and it will be a great benefit to you and your family.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank my guest, Gene, once again for being willing to come on board and share his thoughts and feelings about his Space A experience over the years. Now, if you're a veteran who's traveled via Space A and you have experiences that you'd like to share, I hope that you'll sound off in the comments down below. Give us an overview of what your favorite Space A route is. And as always, we're grateful that you're here. If you found this information useful for your purposes, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps this channel a lot. Again, thanks for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the passenger terminal.